We got some breaking news coming out of the transfer portal. Former Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer Sanders has transferred to Ole Miss. This is a really big surprise to me. Most people thought that he was going to be transferring to Auburn with head coach Hugh Freeze there. He ends up going to Ole Miss. And the reason why this is a shocker is because they already have Jaxson Dart in their quarterback room. He was their starter last season. Now, Jaxson Dart, he didn't play well last year for Ole Miss. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. He was average at best. Jaxson Dart in Ole Miss, biggest games of the season, didn't play well. He played awful against LSU. He didn't play well against Alabama. He missed several big throws. And then we saw what he did in their recent showing in their loss to Texas Tech, throwing 3 interceptions. So you bring in Spencer Sanders. This is somebody who was one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 during his time with Oklahoma State. 2019, he was Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. He was a first-team All-Big 12 selection in 2021. He led the conference in total offensive yards. He threw for 2,839 passing yards, 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, while rushing for 668 rushing yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. And he completed 62.1% of his passes. Now, his production dropped off a good amount this past season. Only 17 touchdowns through the air, 19 interceptions. He did have 2 more rushing touchdowns with 8, but he had less rushing yards, and he completed 57% of his passes. But I think the large reason for why Spencer Sanders struggled last season was simply for the fact that Oklahoma State, they didn't really have too much talent around them. Some of their best offensive playmakers from the previous season departed. Jaylen Warren, one of the best running backs in that conference. He's now the backup running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they lost a good amount of talent. Not to mention, I don't think Spencer Sanders has ever played with a good offensive line during his time at Oklahoma State. Every time I was watching him play at Oklahoma State, I saw the dude running for his life. So he's going to Ole Miss, a team that should have a really good offensive line this year. They have a really good group of wide receivers. We already know about Quinshon Judkins, the best true freshman running back from last college football season. There's a lot of talent for Spencer Sanders to work with. Oh, and let's not forget, Lane Kiffin is one of the best offensive minds in the game. We saw what he did with Matt Corral. Matt Corral was a streaky player. Lane Kiffin comes in. He ends up getting him a little bit acclimated to a system. And then we see what Matt Corral did his final year under Lane Kiffin. Spencer Sanders, the knock with him is that he can be streaky at times. He can be hot and cold during certain moments of games. He also has the tendency to be reckless and turnover prone. Now, I don't think his turnover issues are the same as Jaxson Dart's turnover issues. I think that Spencer Sanders' turnover issues come from him trying to make too much happen, trying to be Superman. At Ole Miss, you don't really got to do that. You have a good amount of playmakers there, so you don't have to really make up for any lack of talent disparity on your roster like you were at Oklahoma State, a team that doesn't really get a lot of big fines in the transfer portal yearly, a team that doesn't bring in top-level talent out of high school on a consistent basis. So going to Ole Miss, I think is going to be a really good landing spot for Spencer Sanders. I think he could do some really big things for Lane Kiffin if he ends up winning the starting job this off season. Now, Jaxson Dart, I'm not going to count him out. Like I mentioned earlier, the dude wasn't trash, although he wasn't that great throwing the football. 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The dude was really good when it came to running the football. As a matter of fact, he was really big when it came to what the Rebels did on the ground this past season. 614 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. And when he was at his best was when he was able to do damage on the ground. So for Jaxson Dart, I think that he's going to improve. That was his first year under Lane Kiffin's offense. It wasn't bad. I think it was a pretty good starting point the build on moving forward. Yeah, your final game against Texas Tech wasn't how you would like that season to end, but I think for the most part, there were some performances that he had during the regular season, such as the game he had against Texas A&M, that you can look back on. So there are some positives for Jaxson Dart. He also does have a lot of upside. This was somebody who, coming out of the transfer portal around this same time last year, had a lot of hype. A lot of people were really excited about him. So I don't think that the talent and potential isn't there. I think both of those are still there. I do expect him to improve. And this is going to be a really fascinating quarterback battle to watch throughout spring camp. But let me know what you guys think about Spencer Sanders' decision to transfer to Ole Miss. Do you guys think he will be the starting quarterback over Jaxson Dart? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe for more NFL and college football content. Check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. You can find the JT Sports Podcast.